What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 10X Recruiting, brought to you by MetaView. We got MetaView CEO Sile. What's up, Sile? How you doing?
What's up?
Today's episode, Sile, we had Deepali Vyas on. And this is honestly like one of my favorite episodes ever. The whole thing is so good and there's so many insights. What were your takeaways?
I actually want to really run through takeaways because it's so dense with like everything she talks about is a take. She's obviously an amazing thinker on like how to run your career, which I'd say this is really what this is about, is how to excel in your career. My sort of biggest takeaway really was I sort of intellectually agree with everything she says, which some of the things she's talking about are how, you know, you've got to accept sort of things are political, you've got to manage sideways, all these things are true. But then I also think you want to be careful about sometimes being a little bit more, almost having more of a utopian view about how the way the world of work should be can be beneficial, right? You don't want to be maybe suck it in too much to playing the political game, even though we all know every organization is full of politics, because some of the sort of most impactful, frankly, humans on the planet don't play that game. How do you sort of like riddle me that? Name whatever sort of tech CEO you want that is doing incredible things. They probably don't think a bunch about their sort of internal politics, and that's not what got them to where they are. So that's where I just like temper this, what she was describing, which I sort of agree with. Like, if you want to get ahead, you need to know how to influence people, how to manage relationships, you need to play politics, you need to do these things. But equally, there are some people out there who don't do that and they still do amazing things. So I'm just trying to figure out where I fall on that equation.
I think the thing that you're getting at, right, is that the work ultimately is the most important thing. And I think you are right about that. And to your other point, there is a spectrum, right? This isn't just like all companies are the same. The degree of politics at companies varies wildly, from hyper political to some politics, but to the point in the pod, which I strongly agree with, like everywhere does have politics.
I guess if she was also part of this conversation, what she probably, because I have, you know, most impactful man on the planet right now, you should take your pick, but like Elon Musk is going to be one of them. I guess she would say what he does do is also spend a lot of time telling people about all the impact he's had. So, and that is one of her lessons as well. I'm sort of thinking maybe she's right on even more fronts than I thought. And that actually a lot of the most impactful people do sort of spend a lot of time telling the world about how impactful they are as well, not just doing the work. But yeah, I think that core of it, you can't really pull the wool over people's eyes just with the politics, right? You have to actually be doing good work.
My biggest takeaway, and it was hard for me to boil it down to one, which I'm going to do here because again, the whole thing is worth listening to, is that politics aren't evil, they're the game. You know, we talked a lot about this. I talked about a lesson that one of my managers gave me when I was at DoorDash. I gave a story from that. I hate politics. I do not like them. Workplace politics. You don't have the opportunity to opt out of them. Like, you have to actually understand what the game is, who the players are, and then how to continue to move ahead in the game. It's just like Mario, right? I talked to my son about this. It's like, we all start at level 1. But you can skip levels. You can do that. That is part of the career game. You just have to understand what game you're playing in the environment that you're in. That was my biggest takeaway from this. I would describe this episode as kind of like a case study in human dynamics. This is so different than anything I've ever done before. Like, we really kind of got under the surface here, just kind of recruiter to recruiter about like what's happening actually with these humans, as opposed to kind of like, you know, merit and, you know, kind of the traditional things that you hear. This is a completely different podcast. I'm super excited for you guys to listen to this one. This is my episode with Deepali Vyas. Hope you guys enjoy it. This is 10X Recruiting, a podcast from MetaView. Let's get after it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 10X Recruiting, Deepali Vyas. So I'm so excited for this episode, and this is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do here. Because yes, you are an exec recruiter, you have 25 years of experience, that qualifies you for the show. But I think the thing that puts you into the stratosphere is what you're doing right now on social. So for those of you who don't know, Deepali has 271,000 followers on Instagram, 225,000 on Twitter, and a paltry 45,000 followers on LinkedIn. And you've built this amazing brand, like just throwing out banger comments that like kind of like speak truth to the things that we all know but don't really talk about. And so that's what we're going to do on today's episode. Deepali, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Nolan. Excited to be here.
All right, let's start with salary. So you said your salary is not about what you're worth, it's about what you negotiate. What does that mean?
Most people get trapped into thinking that they find all these data points. I'm worth this much. This is what I should be making. all the things they crowdsource from their friends, like, do you think I should be making this? When they start crowdsourcing family and friends, I know they are doomed. And so, they'll come to the table and they'll say all of these data points, and that may or may not be relevant, right? So the idea is that you don't want to throw out the first number. You want them to throw out the number, and then you want to go back and negotiate, because the person who throws out the first number always loses, in my mind, right? And yes, you can have your data points, you can have all of that, but you have to be so prepared to negotiate for what you want. It's not about the budget. It's not about the range. They can give you ranges till they're blue in the face. But I have negotiated things for myself where I've doubled my comp just because I know I was worth it.
I agree. It's really interesting. And I think this is especially true for execs. I think it's especially true for top 1% talent. Is like, I see so many people filtering based off of like what the range says. And to your point, everything is negotiable. But also, like, my daughter and I have this joke. She's about to be 5 and she's going on 25. That like all these rules are just made up by somebody, right? Somebody put a line here. That's where they put the line. And guess what? That line can move. Like, it turns out it is actually very subjective at most companies, if not candidly all companies, for the type of talent that we're talking about. And so I similarly encourage people to just push. Like, you got to be able to push more. And especially if you're in a good job, right? Like, that's when you have leverage.
And that's part of the point, right? Like, you said the right word, leverage. If you didn't ask, if you didn't position, if you didn't leverage your value, your paycheck will not reflect your potential.
That's just the facts. Which leads into the next piece of what some of your banger quotes, which is office politics are not optional. What does that mean?
It's simply not. Every company, every organization, large or small, there is a dynamic, and you walk into that dynamic. And if you don't think that there is something there that you have to understand and play the game, you should not even go there. It's just office politics. Whether I get the people that always say, "Hey, Deepali, I don't like to play office politics. I don't." It's not about the fact that it's office politics. It's the corporate game. You have to understand the game that your organization is playing. Who are the power players? Who do you have to go to? Who has the most sphere of influence? By the way, that sphere of influence may not be the CEO. It may be the chief business officer or the sales or the chief salesperson or whatever it is. But there is a game being played in that organization. So it's not about the politics, it's about the game. And you have to understand it to play.
Oh, this is like such a sensitive topic for me. So going back to 2017, I'm at DoorDash. I'm in my late 20s, and I'm like so sick of this political bullshit that's going on. So I sit down with my boss, who's Keith Yandel, he's the chief business officer. And I was like, Keith, I'm so sick and fucking tired of these politics. And Keith goes, oh yeah, Nolan, does it feel good to say that? Does that feel good? I hope so. Because guess what? Politics are everywhere. And if you don't learn to play them, then you're never going to get ahead. And that stuck with me because it was kind of like the last version of the little boy inside me died that day. And I hated him. I hated him for saying it to me for months, because I was like, dude, like I was looking at him being like, you're so full of it. And it just turns out it's not just office politics, it's human dynamics. And none of us are above human dynamics. And especially me, like, I want the world to be merit-based. And I think we are, like, for the most part, we're moving in that direction. Like, merit still is king, but human dynamics are always at play.
Well, and you can't avoid it, right? Like, we're in the world of AI, but everything that AI powers is still going to be powered by human intelligence. So there's no way around it. And so when I say office politics aren't optional, I feel like, Nolan, what your story was is like a little piece of innocence died in your corporate world, right? Like, I feel like that's how you felt. And you may not like them, you may not play them, but make no mistake, they're being played around you. So if you're not on the board, you're a pawn, right? And so promotions are influenced by relationships. Projects are handed to the visible and well liked. Layoffs are often about politics and not performance. So saying, I hate politics, it's noble, but it's not a strategy, right? So navigating politics isn't manipulation, it's just career insurance.
So I want to talk about likability for a second. I feel like it's not, so this conversation is not allowed to be had on LinkedIn. You are not allowed to have this conversation there. But the truth of the matter is that the people who are likable, who have charisma, or as the kids say, Riz, it turns out like those people get ahead. They always get ahead. And again, like it's another human dynamic, like truth that we don't want to acknowledge. We just want to be able to say, like, I'm my head's down, I'm doing that, but that's not actually the whole job. Like the whole job is actually, yes, how do you do your work? Also, how do you show up? How do you interact with others? Can you make them laugh? Like my commitment to my wife is when I married her, I got this from my dad, is like, I'll make you laugh at least once a day. Like at least once a day, right? Because like that's relationships. They need to be dynamic. They need to be interesting. Like you need to be drawn to the other person. And so like, have you seen that as well in your career? Like the likable people get ahead?
Over and over again. I call it the likability factor. It may be underrated or unspoken or unfair, but it's really real. And we definitely don't talk about it enough, right? So the person who's liked gets the benefit of the doubt, right? They survive the reorg. They get invited to the closed door meetings. Their mistakes are understandable, but your mistake unacceptable, right? And so like those are like the nuances of where competence kind of keeps you in the game, like you said, merit, we're driving towards merit, but likability keeps you there. And then think about this, Nolan, right? When people move, right? Let's say XYZ CEO moved to a different firm and they're like, oh, I want to bring my team with me. Well, guess who's going with them? The ones they liked to work with.
God, that's so true. My one of my best friends, Danny Polanco, who I've known since I was like 11, he's a DoorDash, he's been there for a decade. I used to just like watch him and be like, how do you do this? Like everybody likes you. Like I don't get this. And over time, because I paid attention, I started to figure out like some of his tactics. Like he always remembers people's names.
Mm-hmm.
Always. He makes people laugh, right?
Mm-hmm.
He makes them feel like they're the only person in the room, that they're special. What are other qualities, like what are other tactics that you see people do that make them likable?
Yeah, I think that, there's an acute sense of self-awareness, right? And I think most people, when you have that self-awareness, I always talk about it in more of this, um, you have to know your audience, and that's how you have to speak to them, right? So if you have someone that is like, appreciates short, brief encounters, know your audience and speak to them that way, and you'll be more likable to them, right? So I call it the chameleon leadership factor, right? You change your colors based on who your audience is. And that's where you can influence. It's building that rapport in the way that people want it to. Because think about, remember, I think his name is Chris Voss, the FBI negotiator, whatever it is, right? So he always talks about mirroring, right? And I think about likability from that mirroring factor, right? You're going to like someone that someone is like you. So when you see something in them and that rapport building is there, you're naturally going to say, that's my person. And I think one of my sort of fortune cookie, if I could say fortune cookie moments is like, look, if you want more influence, like your friend, they weren't just building skills, they were building rapport. And, when there's a tie, likability wins. And there's always a tie. It's going to be that person.
That's so true. I love what you said about the chameleon. Like that's actually like another one of those like tactics I see in Danny that is so it's so well deployed. And for some of us it comes natural. I think for others though, like all of these skills are learnable, but for some people they require more effort. And so an example for me, turns out I'm awful at remembering names. I'm terrible at it. Like, and so forever, I just kind of like gave myself the excuse that was like, and I think part of this is being a recruiter, right? You're on the phone with a million different people all day long and like context switching and shit. And so it's just so hard for me to remember someone's name. And so I did this thing maybe like 5 or 6 years ago to where based off of the location, I would create a new note. So, like at the gym, I have a note and it has a list of names of every single person I've ever met at the gym, including identifiable things about the person. So, like, my friend Haley is a mom and like she's super fit. And like my friend Brandon is like really jacked and tan. And like I just like keep these things kind of like, into a note. And so, the next place is like a church. Like these are the people who I've run into there. And so like literally before I go to those places, I will like pop open the note just to like have like a quick refresher. It's certainly more effort.
It
But
is.
I think that little bit of effort, which by the way isn't that much, right? It takes 25 seconds to write the note and 5 seconds to review it before I walk in there. It like helps the reinforcement. And so it becomes easier over time. And then two, it's like because I'm putting that effort in, like slight effort in, people can experience like the fullest version of me. And so I show up, I think, a lot better in front of them.
Well, so you do exactly the kinds of things that my husband does, right? When he meets somebody, immediately in his phone, he will put the person's name, what they were, all about, where he met them, how many kids they have, if they had twins, whatever. Here's the thing about people. People like to feel special. You remember the Dale Carnegie book where repeating someone's name 10 times,
How to win
right?
friends.
Exactly. So people want to feel special. So that little thing that you just did in that review that took you 5 seconds, and you go up to them and you say, hey, how's whatever, the gym for you this week, or whatever, that they're a gym rat, whatever it is, they now feel special in your orbit. And that's what makes you likable, right? And so that builds an even deeper relationship. And by the way, people who get overwhelmed about, oh, I don't want to do this, it's like it's too time consuming, to bullshit. To send a text is 5 freaking seconds, right? It's hey Nolan, are you in town this week? I'm really excited to grab dinner with you. See you soon. Okay, I counted, that was 5 seconds.
Exactly. Like this is not like that big of a deal. So the other one, I got one for you that I've been thinking about, and I've coined it for new people that I haven't met, right? Because like I kind of just like want like now that I'm like if I go to the same like haunts, right, the same social places, part of the benefit of going there is like you're establishing depth and like you want to build relationship depth with people, and so you see the same people multiple times. It's like, well, how do I go and talk to these people? And one of the things that I started coining is compliment and introduce. So, people turns out people love to be complimented. Shocking, right? And so I'll just say something like, this is what I did to my friend Matt at the gym because I kept seeing him there, and like this dude's like, it's like an Olympic athlete like doing stuff in the gym, and I'm like, dude, I've never seen like somebody work out as hard as you. Like, it's awesome to me. I finally introduced myself. My name's Nolan. It's nice to meet you. And it's like immediately, like, he's kind of like shy and like about it and like, being modest, but like he feels good. I made him feel good. And it's such a great tactic to use to just kind of like win some friends. And ultimately, like that goes a long way because most people don't do it.
That's your modern day meet cute.
That's
Your
so true.
corporate meet cute.
It's
It's
so
like,
true. It works.
and yeah, absolutely. Look, people love recognition and people love feeling special. And it's just it's such a evolutionary thing. It's just like the foundation of who we are, right? Like for people to know us, see us, understand us, someone who makes other people feel smarter, not smaller, feel, seen and heard. Like that's what they want. By the way, all of these arguments, right? When you think of even just relationships, right? When I'm arguing with my husband, like the things that he's saying is like, you're not hearing me, right? And I'm like, I'm listening to the words that are coming out of your mouth. He just wants to be heard, which so then when you actually look back, you're like, oh, I get it. Okay, yes, I understand what you're saying. Let me just let that sink in.
Totally. All right. The next one is performance doesn't get you promoted. Visibility does.
So this is the age-old question around I love the people that tell me, Deepali, I just put my head down for the last year. I did all of these great things, whatever. I'm sitting here, producing this great work. Who'd you tell about it? Who saw it? What leaders did you expose this to? Did you do a power memo? Did you talk to any influencers in your orbit that saw your work and said, yes, this person is doing great. Let me move them over here, or they have high potential? Because you can do all the hard work possible, but if your manager is taking credit for it, or you're not inserted in that conversation, it doesn't matter how good you are. It just doesn't.
It's like another. This is why I love like these lines, because they're so true, and they're also like you don't want to hear them, right? It's like, well, Deepali, what do you mean? Like I've been working my ass off, right? Like my work product is better than anyone else. And this is another one of those like hard lessons I had to learn.
Yeah.
Which is like going into your corner, putting your headphones on, putting your head down and getting to work will not get you ahead.
Yeah.
It just won't.
I think most people think like their work ethic guarantees recognition. And what I say is, yes, work ethic is great for yourself, right? You're learning. This is you know, no one takes care of you like you. So all the things that you're doing at work essentially is for your skill building. But your output doesn't always lead to opportunity, because if no one sees it, it didn't happen. So the loudest wins, they're not always the best wins, by the way, right? And the visible get promoted because it's not because they're capable, it's because the politically savvy got sponsored and they were like, you know what? We're in on it. So I think what people really need to realize when I talk about performance is it's about impact, right? And your impact only counts if it's seen, felt, and talked about. And the biggest thing that I always say is that people should be saying your name in the rooms when you aren't there. That's visibility, right? Even if you're an introvert or whatever it is, your work somehow has seeped into their orbit. Make it seep into their orbit so they see you.
Yeah. So tactics on this. So Kim Scott, who wrote the book Radical Candor, I had her come speak at Carta when I was working there. And one of the things that she told me that she did with Sheryl Sandberg, who was her manager, is that she called them weekly snippets. So call it like 3 to 5 bullets on what she accomplished that week. And this is going to be super triggering to people that hate Elon Musk, because like he just pushed out the "what have you done this week" email. It's actually the proactive version of it coming from the end user, like managing their manager is actually like the thing I would say. Because, isn't it true, Deepali, that most managers are terrible managers? And like, if you really want to get ahead, you have to manage them.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. If you don't manage up, you will be managing yourself out, right? And so I believe there's 2 tactics that I tell my execs that I'm coaching. I'm like, listen, you need to figure out your bluff memo, which is bottom line up front, right? You know that, right? Every email, every update, every contribution, get those key takeaways out there first so those decision makers can see you. And then I would say what I talk about is the power memo. And the power memo is just what you said, right? Like those wins, like what is the wins and the progress? And so you are effectively saying, hey, here are the things that I'm working on, and here are the wins. And by the way, it creates a paper trail. It is undeniable that those were your wins. So they cannot, when that performance review comes up or that, visibility that you really want, you have now created a paper trail with your manager that you can go back and refer to, and they can't get around it, by the way. There's no bobbing and weaving around that paper trail because you've simply put it there, right? And then the other thing I tell people to do is speak up in meetings strategically. So don't just talk to talk, but you are asking thoughtful questions, you're offering a synthesis, you're linking one person's point to your point. You're starting to get remembered as someone that's connecting the dots, right? That's visibility. And that's subtle visibility. We talk about sort of soft power. That's soft power.
Yeah. The weekly snippet email or weekly update email, I used to, the story I would tell myself, it's like, oh my God, it's going to take me an hour to write. And it's like a pain in the, it's like another thing for me to do. Right. And like, boohoo me, I'm looking for like all the sob stories for the reasons to get out of doing it. And it turns out if you just have it open as a running note, there's multiple benefits. One is like when it happens, you capture it, it's down, and then it's super easy to put together the weekly email. But what you brought up is actually like performance review time. Like one of the things I hated about performance review time and writing my own self-reflection was like, oh my God, I got to think about all the shit that I did. And it turns out like when you live in like our world and you live 9 lives in a day, that our worlds are fucking busy.
And you forget.
And I forgot.
I freaking hated performance review time. You know why? Because and this is every company. I don't care who you are, Nolan. I don't care where you've been. You've been at wonderful tippity top companies. Performance reviews are what have you done for me lately culture. Okay. I'm telling you a hard line fact. That win in January means shit in December. Okay. Like write that down. Not, unless you've had this running tab of your wins that you can say, hey, remember when we set the whole year up with that January win? Yeah, that was me. Right. And then then your performance review is meaningful. Right. And it's your, I'm now calling it, your brag book. And that should be updated if you're really lazy, quarterly. But honestly, it should be weekly to monthly.
And the other piece here is like, this whole notion of managing your manager.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everybody, what is it? Expectations minus reality equals happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think instead of like, oh, I'm going to go work for a manager that's going to coach me, that's going to make me better, right? We have these like huge aspirations of our managers and they all suck, right? Like I've learned way more from the bad managers than from the good ones. And so, what I think we should instead do is lower that expectation bar to like, I have to manage this person. And that must be true. And so if you think about it from that lens, then by putting together, I do think it should be weekly, by the way, like the weekly feedback loop, make sure of a lot of things don't get lost in the shuffle. But I think the main one is that, you sending this email and say you have a weekly or biweekly one-on-one, right? Then you could check in and anchor the conversation based off of what's going on in your email to make sure that you're on the right track with what your manager thinks you should be doing. Because this is where people get really off track. I think this happens a lot in HR and people operations recruiting work, because a lot of that work is subjective, like the priorities are subjective. And so like by doing this, you're actually able to stay more in tune to be like, hey, I said like maybe you use the weekly snippet email as the foundation for your one-on-one. And now it's like, great, like this is what I'm working on. Like we can have a 5-minute meeting because your manager doesn't want to be in there either, by the way. They don't want to be doing this bullshit with you either. And I think ultimately not having one-on-ones with your manager is the ultimate sign that you are super autonomous and you're adding value because you have so much trust established. But that's what you should be using it for, is like, if you're aligned or not, you're going to find out very, very quickly versus finding out at performance review time, which is when people get blindsided.
Well, and that's where I think most people are in the bucket of reacting versus being proactive. When you are reactive, you're showing up and just reacting to what's coming down. Okay, I'm going to say the most awful, visual here. But okay, so here's what I always think about. I think about like, a pigeon like crapping on your head, and then that other pigeon is crapping on the pigeon below them, right? So it's like this is management, right? Someone is shitting on that manager, and that manager is going to be shitting on you, and you're just reacting to it. So you're already on your back foot. So you better show up, bring your 3 bullet points: wins, priorities, and asks. Like, here's what I'm winning. Here's what my priorities are. Are these your priorities too? And then ask, have an ask, right? If you're not asking your manager, you're just floating out there into oblivion. And this way you can flag those issues early. You can come up with solutions. Your manager isn't, surprised. The last thing managers want is to be blindsided by surprises, right? Like that is the worst thing. And the fact that like, if you're reacting and not proacting, it's a problem.
Yeah, the ask is a great point, but I think how you structure the ask is critically important. And so my framework for structuring asks is, hey, here's how I'm thinking about solving this problem. What's your take?
Yes. Yes.
Right? It's not like, here's the problem.
Right.
Help me.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Which is what most people do. It's like, no, you took a stab, you went down this direction, right? You're hitting a wall, right? That's you have to show your work. Same thing as like the whole essence of this email.
The math
like,
problem.
Yeah, because it's like that let me Google that for you joke that we used to use in like 2012, right? When it was somebody was like, hi, what's this thing? Like, here, like look at this link, dipshit. Right? But like that's how you structure an ask, right?
That's right. Yeah. That look, it's that ask is so critical of it's almost as if you're interviewing them like, okay, here's my point of view. What do you make of it? Because people are very like managers, I think will immediately say, you know what, I would think about it this way. And then reconfirm with them. Okay, so what you're saying is I should look at it this way. I'm going to go back and do this and then bring this back to you, right? Now, if they end up throwing that in the trash, you start over again, but at least you did exactly what they asked because you reconfirmed it.
All right. Last 2 quotes, which I think are relatable, which is networking isn't about being social. It's about survival. And then the other one is your job is replaceable, but you are not. Build your personal brand because that's all you have.
All right. Well, I'll take the networking one first. I think when people say networking, I think it's such an overwhelming thing for most people. They're like, oh, I got to go out and I got to do these mixers and I'm an introvert or even if you're an extrovert, whatever. It's like taking a toll on this. I think what people don't understand about networking, and networking is survival. Networking can be you saw, a high school classmate on LinkedIn post something that you haven't, touched base with them in 20 years. Who gives a crap? I had someone land in my inbox. I haven't seen this person in 25 years. But when they landed in my LinkedIn inbox, it was like, hey, do you remember me from Jersey City? And I remembered exactly who she was. I remember her role. She's now seeing me in a different light. It was so easy to connect because I had this, relationship that we had from 25 years ago as neighbors, right? And that's a form of networking. By the way, she's looking for a job. So obviously she wants to reach out to me, right? But I think people get overwhelmed with this task of, I don't know how to network, or networking is a survivor skill, but I just don't know how to do it. And I'll take a page out of like Jesse Itzler's book. He says, send 5 texts a week. It takes you 3 minutes. That's 15 minutes of your time. You just networked with 5 people. And that becomes exponential when you do it every week and consistently. And I think that's where people fall down too. There's no consistency when they approach this whole networking game. I try to meet 1 or 2 new people a week. And in our game, right, we're meeting new people all the time. So we are natural networkers. And you won't believe what doors have opened just because of the network game.
It's kind of like, I think the best analogy is like planting seeds. And the problem is like when you need your network, right? is not the time you should be planting seeds. And this is where people like, you have to learn this lesson, I think, the hard way before you really start to invest in it. What's I hate this quote, but it's like your network is your net worth or something. But my buddy Chris Tobin said something that really resonated with me a couple of years ago, which was like, it took my entire life to build this network, and it takes 5 minutes to burn it down. And that was like kind of like an oh shit moment for me of like, wow, like he's not allowing access like through his network very easily. Like he actually views like he's thinking about this game in a much more transcendent way than I am. He's thinking about it as like, the more value I add to them, the more value ultimately, through karma or score, whatever it is, like it's going to come back to me.
That's such a good point that you brought up, because I want to double click on that. You know what I absolutely hate? This is where it like just chaps my hide. Oh my, and by the way, what a old person thing to say. And I grew up in Colorado, so I'm gonna just say it chaps my hide. When I place a certain CEO and they're really grateful in that moment, and then they literally disappear until they need their next job again, nothing pisses me off more. And it's like, they never pay it forward or give back, and nothing pisses me off more. And you know what? I'm in the business of, I got to swallow my pride on that one, because I may need that person in a different role or whatever it is, but they won't be my first call. They'll be my 10th call. Right. So they might have had, an opportunity to be my number one, but they never cultivated that relationship with me over time, even though I helped them. So when you were talking about like planting seeds, yes, you don't have to be, you don't have to be so consistent on like growing every seed at the same time. But every once in a while, do that check-in, just even randomly when you don't need that person. It's kind of like, hey, just checking in with you. Did you read this? I read this really cool article. I thought about you. That's all it took. That's all it took, that you were top of mind.
So where I've started to up-level my game on this one is when I get opportunities that aren't for me, but I think they're interesting. Right. So I'm now living on the hell yes or fuck no framework. Like that's where I'm at. By the way, if you're in your 20s, you haven't earned the right to live that framework. Like it takes time, but anyways, that's where I'm at, and I'm very grateful for that. But the thing I'm doing now, which I literally sent 3 of these yesterday, and these people listen to the show, so they'll know who they are and will text me after the fact, is like, hey, I got this opportunity. It's not for me, but you're one of the best people that I know. I think it's super interesting, and I think you should have a conversation. And it does 2 things. One, they're like, oh shit, Nolan's thinking of me. That's cool, right? And, they could decline, accept, it doesn't matter, but I'm thinking of them. And then 2, like, this company's hiring, right? And it's every time, candidly, I would talk to a candidate and they're like, yeah, not for me. And then boom, never hear from them again. Versus like, the candidate just gave me a referral. Like, don't I want to be like hanging with that homie like pretty often? Like that person's adding value and they don't have to. Like these are just such easy wins that I think people can like put runs on the board, and they're not doing it.
I'll give you an analogy to that, right? What you just did there is the equivalent to like getting swag at a conference. It's free. It's free, right? Like it's there. You're going to, take it anyway. And so getting swag at a conference is your way of giving swag to someone, giving that person a favor. Just do it. It's not yours to own, right? And you've thought about them and you made them feel special, and they have something tangible to run with, right? Like, do it.
Totally. It's just
Move forward.
And by the way, the older I get, the smaller the world becomes.
Well, you had this conversation. You were like, okay, I'm in town in New York for dinner. And we were going through all the names, like, oh, I know that guy. Oh, I know that guy. Oh, okay. So then you should come to this dinner. That's.
And we had never met. You and I had never met.
No.
Yeah. The world is very small. Okay. So the last one is Your job is replaceable, but you are not. Build your personal brand because that's all you have. So on this topic, right? I hated thinking about personal brand. It feels like this like huge thing, it feels like the elephant and you're trying to eat it all at once. You don't know where to take the first bite if you were to take that approach. So like, how do you actually do that?
Okay. So I'm going to take the first piece and then the second piece. When I say your job is replaceable and you are not, for me, right? Let's just get something straight. Your job title is replaceable. Your seat on the org chart, it could be filled. And your role in that system, someone else can do it eventually. But you, right? You, the way that you think, the way you connect the dots, the way you build trust, the way you lead without a title, you see around the corners, that's not replaceable, right? Those are the things that you take with you. And that is the foundation of your personal brand. My biggest thing with personal brand building, and the reason why I advocate for it so much, is because it's happened to me. What happens is if I don't own my narrative, someone else will do it for me. So early in my career, and this was the pivotal moment about this brand building for me, I was known as a quant recruiter, right? I did a lot of work in the hedge fund space, and I had this one client, I will not name the name, but I had this one client, multi-billion dollar hedge fund, whatever, you'll figure it out.
Sit it out.
They the internal HR person, talent person, whatever, would always come to me and say, oh, we're going to give this role to somebody else because you're the quant recruiter. I really just wanted to give them the double bird because I was like, excuse me, I'm smart and I'm doing so many more things. But because I never built my personal brand expanding outside my quant experience, because I never lifted my head up, I was the one doing heads down, great work, blah, 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 but never decided to tell the world that I was doing more than quant work. And so I was pigeonholed and I made a promise to myself that, like, as cringy as it is, as much as, this love-hate relationship with LinkedIn, I am going to tell the world that I recruit C-suite leaders because I was, and I did, and I do. And I didn't want that person to relegate me to just giving me quant searches, like WTF.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that question of, you should know foundationally who you are and, think about what people say about you when you leave that Zoom room or when you leave the office. Like, what shapes you, what makes you who you are. And I think, the biggest thing, Nolan, is that a lot of people get afraid to show their quote personal brand on a platform like LinkedIn. What is my employer going to say? Like, what are they going to say? You're building your brand. And by the way, you're bringing them along for the ride. So if you're doing amazing work at Amazon, Amazon should applaud you saying, hey, you're bringing our brand with you. Like, give me a freaking break.
Yeah. So I took Sahil's course on building a personal brand like 6 years ago. Cause like I had, it's like, I'm good in one-on-one conversations, but like I didn't do shit on social media. And there was a lot in this course. And I think actually a lot of it I didn't love. But this is the thing, is like for every person, it's kind of like a figure out your own deal by experimenting. Right. So things that worked for me was like capturing is the hardest part. So what are you going to say? Right? When you're thinking about like going on social media, what are you going to say? And what Sahil's point was like, well, everybody has like these crazy days, right? Like you're experiencing all sorts of humans and problems and things in your life every single day. And so when something comes up, which is, by the way, where we get that, these like random thoughts, like it happens when we're in the moment or when we're in the shower or we're brushing our teeth. Problem one is capture. Because if you don't capture it, it will go away. You will forget, right? I've had this a million times happen to me before bed, or I wake up at something at night. If I don't capture it, it is gone in the morning. And in fact, during the day, it's like 5 minutes later, I was like, what was I just thinking about? So like, you have to figure out a capture system for you. And then thing two is like, you know, on social media, everyone has the spotlight effect, which essentially means you think everybody's looking at you. And it turns out nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Even on the stuff that's been like the most controversial that I've posted on LinkedIn, like, people actually do care for 30 seconds and then they don't care anymore. And you go through this maturity process to where the more you post, the more you realize that like, this is all just, everyone's just experimenting and we're all just figuring it out. Nobody has all the answers here, right, Deepali?
Yeah. I mean, like, look, I thought I was super cringy when I posted my first video and I was like, who the hell is going to look at me? I'm giving more general advice and I'm supposed to operate at the top of my license and all of this stuff. Guess what? The biggest, baddest, like CEOs and CHROs were like, I love your content. I'm like, why are you looking at me? Like, why are you even remotely paying attention to me? But here's the thing. What people need to understand is that your brand is what you're remembered for. And in this economy, memory is currency, but memory is short, right? And so you have to keep reminding them of who you are, which goes back to your point, Nolan. People don't care after it's like the news cycle, right? The news cycle will hit and something will be top of mind for a week or two if it's a really big story, a month or two or whatever, just like, for an election, that's all we talk about, whatever. That's now all forgotten. Same thing. And by the way, the LinkedIn memory or whatever, that's even shorter. It's like a 30-second to 3-minute or something super controversial, whatever. So now I just I forget it. Like I put it out there and whoever I resonate with in that moment in time. But the thing is, I want to make sure that people remember me for, what they expect of me, right? Like I'm going to be the same person in the meetings and the emails on social and the hallway conversation. So like whatever they're picking up, right, is the reason why they want to connect with me. And it may be at whatever moment in time. So that's my brand. And I feel like people that obsess over like, I don't know what my personal brand, who gives a crap, right? Like just figure out what you're really good at and what people expect of you. That's your brand. I had this guy, I have to tell this story because I'm so like livid over it. So a friend of a friend, he got laid off 2 years ago. He was in sales. And I kind of know this guy, but I didn't want to say anything, whatever. He came to me for advice once and I was like, okay, here's what you should do. Turns out he's been on the job market for 2 years looking for roles. If he were to have asked me or come back to me right now, I would have been like, what the hell have you been doing for 2 years? Right? Like, I don't see you on LinkedIn. I don't see anything. You're in sales. You're obviously not good at it. Right? Or you could have landed something. And I'm sorry to be harsh, but like, it's true. And the thing is that self-audit that I was talking about, like figuring out like who you are, you should be able to say, you know what? I'm not really good at sales. That's not my talent. It's my passion, but it's not my talent. Right? And you should be pivoting on the shit that you are good at. Because when you are good at something, you're going to be more confident. You're going to build your brand around it and you're going to keep going and you're going to find passion. Like, don't give me this BS about passion.
Alex Hormozi talks about this all the time, which is this like passion is overrated and that it can be taught. Yeah. Like you can learn like I love recruiting. I'm obsessed with recruiting.
So am I. Like
I didn't start until I was 23.
All day, every day. I think it's like when I leave this, chat, if my husband comes home, all I want to do is talk about this. I'm so passionate about it. But I found my jam, right? Like this is my jam. I want to.
It's not innate. It can be harnessed.
Yeah.
Deepali, this is like one of my favorite conversations. This is a masterclass in human dynamics. Where can people find you?
All right. Well, I am the Elite Recruiter on Instagram. I'm now over 275, which is amazing. I'm so excited about that. TikTok is the Elite Recruiter as well, or Elite Recruiter. I don't know. Just look up Elite Recruiter. I'm somewhere over there. But no, thank you for the shout out. I appreciate, and I appreciate you.
This is a blast.
You're a great interviewer.
Thanks so much.